Good morning, and thank you for attending today's Veterans Day ceremony. My name is Gail Sawyer, and I'm the chairperson of Acton's Public Ceremonies and Celebrations Committee. On November 11th, 1918, at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the armistice was signed, which ended the First World War. Thereafter, November 11th was celebrated as Armistice Day, with Congress making the date a federal holiday in 1938. After World War II, the date became known as Veterans Day, a change recognized by Congress in 1954, declaring it a day to honor all American veterans of all wars. Let us observe a moment of silence for those that did not come home to their families. If you wish to participate in the following prayer, please bow your heads. God of peace, we pray that you bless all those who have served their country through service in the armed forces. Grant healing to those veterans who have been wounded, be it in body, mind, or soul. Please remember the great sacrifices of our veterans. They risked their lives in honor of our country so that we may live in peace. Bless them for their selfless acts and give them the grace to overcome any obstacles that they may face. Also, please help their families to support them and appreciate their sacrificial service to our country. Amen. I would like to introduce James McCrae, District Director of Veterans Services for Acton and Boxborough.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. For those of you who are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I will now read the Governor's proclamation. A proclamation. Whereas, since the Commonwealth's earliest days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of freedom and liberty, and whereas, on November 11th, 1918, after 4 years of conflict, the armistice was signed in the forest of Compiègne by the Allied nations in Germany, ending World War I, a war to end all wars. And whereas, since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. And whereas, in November 2024, the world will commemorate the 106th anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And whereas there are approximately 300,000 veterans living in Massachusetts, and whereas, in recognition of the sacrifices made by those who have served our great nation, Massachusetts remains committed to supporting its veteran community through the HERO Act, honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members and veterans. And whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made to our country, and whereas we honor and salute those who served our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage, and whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts residents remember the bravery of those who served their country so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder to the cost of our freedom. Now, therefore, I, Maura T. Healy, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2024 to be Veterans Day, and urge all residents of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event, participate fittingly in its observance. And with that, I'd like to welcome you all to this year's Veterans Day ceremony. Thank you to all the residents here in attendance, veterans especially. I'd like to thank the Select Board members here in attendance, Fran Arsenault, David Martin, and Alyssa Nicole. Also with us here today is Town Manager John Mangiarotti, Senator Jamie Eldridge, and Representative Dan Sena. Thank you for being here. Today we gather and honor and recognize the brave men and women who have served our armed forces. Veterans Day is a time for us to reflect on the sacrifices made by these unique individuals who have protected our way of life. As we stand here, it is essential to remember that there are approximately 19 million veterans living in the United States today. Each of these individuals has a unique story filled with courage and dedication. They have served in conflicts from World War II to the global war on terror, and their shared sacrifice is immeasurable. In World War I alone, more than 16 million Americans wore the uniform, with approximately 405,000 losing their lives in battle. Today, only about 240,000 of these World War II veterans remain with us, a stark reminder of the toll that war takes on our nation and the importance of honoring their legacy. However, the sacrifices of our veterans do not end with their time in service. Many face significant challenges upon returning home. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, approximately 11% of veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Additionally, about 1 in 5 veterans reported experiencing a mental health condition, highlighting the need for continued support and resources for those who have served. Despite these challenges, veterans continue to contribute to our society in meaningful ways. Research shows that veterans are more likely to volunteer in their communities, with 26% of veterans reporting that they actively participate in community service, compared to 16% of non-veterans. Their leadership and dedication continue to shape our nation both in and out of uniform. Today, as we honor our veterans, let us also commit ourselves to supporting them. The unemployment rate for veterans has improved, but still remains higher than the national average, with 3.7% of veterans unemployed compared to 3.5% of the general population. It is our responsibility to ensure that our veterans have access to education, job training, mental health resources, so they can thrive after their service. In closing, let us remember the sacrifices of those who have served. Let us honor their commitment to our nation, and let us take action to support them in their lives after service. On this Veterans Day, we thank you, our veterans, for your service, for your sacrifice, and for your unwavering dedication to our country. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Senator Jamie Eldridge to speak.
Good morning and happy Veterans Day to everyone here. Thank you so much for having me say a few words, and I want to thank Veterans Agent James McCrae, Gail Sawyer for all of their hard work in putting together today's ceremony. I had the chance to speak to a number of veterans here at the Common just over at the high school, and want to thank the National Honor Society, Acton Boxborough students, and the Rotary Club of Acton Boxborough for putting on a wonderful breakfast where you really got to see young people have the chance to talk to veterans about their military service. I'm honored to stand here today with all of you and have the opportunity to pay tribute to our veterans who have so selflessly volunteered to serve and protect our great nation. Their demonstrations of bravery and integrity are true pillars of the American ideal. Today, we thank you all for your service and remember your bravery. Let us pause and remember the parts these men and women have played in helping keep America the home of the free and the land of the brave. When you enlist, you assume a responsibility few of us can imagine. We owe our veterans support. Let no one ever question what they're worth. These men and women served us in our country and deserve our utmost respect and quality of care. Veterans from our cities and towns will never be forgotten as long as we continue to share their stories. I'm grateful that our communities have made sure of that as we have dedicated street signs, corners, and plaques to hometown vets who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's wonderful to see veterans incorporated into Acton's celebration of the 250th. Acton, of course, played a significant role in the American Revolutionary War, with many of its citizens fighting in the war and several of them making notable contributions, of course, right here at the Isaac Davis Monument. In Acton, a new initiative is being made to support and house disabled veterans and families in the area, presented by the late, great Mark Starr, founder of Come Home to Acton. Come Home to Acton is a project with short and long-term vision for the Acton community. Short term, the project's goal was to build accessible housing for disabled veterans and their families. Long term, the goal is for Come Home to Acton project to not only bring awareness to veterans' housing issues, but also to act as a model to other towns with the hope of making similar initiatives. As James noted, the legislature recently passed the HEROES Act, which Governor Healy signed into law to provide more benefits and opportunities to our brave veterans. So I want to say this morning, Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans and their families, and to those currently serving. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
We will now lay a wreath and place flowers on the Veterans Monument. The Acton Minutemen will now fire 3 volleys. I would like to introduce our guest speaker today, retired Marine Colonel with 30 years of service, Rob Bowden.
It's on my page.
Yes, it's on your page.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. When James contacted me today, when James contacted me before today, he said, we'd be honored to have you speak. And we even have an antique Jeep there to add a little flair to the ceremony. I don't think he realized that when I came here, I'd look at the Jeep and realize it was the same kind I used to drive in, the M151, which means today, your speaker is antique. I am Rob Bowden, as James said, and I am a retired Marine Corps veteran. I'm also the member of a very large Bowden clan who've lived in Acton for the past 60 years. Today, in town squares and city parks and ceremonies across our great nation, we Americans pay tribute to those who have stepped forward, putting themselves in harm's way to protect our freedom. For me, it all started when I was 10 years old, standing at the town common in West Acton as I watched a World War II veteran in uniform give a presentation much like I am here this morning. And with the pomp and the circumstance of the day, in his words, I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Sorry,
And-
Rob, I'm just going to push this up to you a little bit.
I actually used to have a command voice. Apparently, I'm losing it to you old veterans, as you can see, like you are. I wanted to be an American soldier. Since the Revolutionary War, when Captain Isaac Davis led our Minutemen to the Old North Bridge in Concord, until today's conflicts, recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have successfully defended our freedom and the freedom of others, with our own children risking their own lives for that safety. After the Vietnam conflict, our nation lost its way, sadly looking down upon our veterans as they returned from battle. This disrespect went on for many years. Then 9/11 came, and our return to patriotism and respect for our veterans and our warriors reoccurred. As an old warrior, I could not be more proud to have seen that change. Recently, when I was in a parking lot, a very young girl came up to me with her mother, and she handed me a little business card. And then on that business card, it stated, with overwhelming respect, "Thank you so much for your service." Needless to say, I was extremely surprised and touched. And as we know, over these past 24 years, our nation has paid respect as it is doing here today. You only had to watch our television in the last 2 days to see everything everyone says is in honor of our veterans. Today, it is therefore not only appropriate, but our moral obligation to demonstrate our heartfelt gratitude to our service members and our veterans. An appreciation for those who have sacrificed their personal freedom and their safety to protect our nation, and as you all know, often the nation of other nations. It is a commitment that we have steadfastly made for the past 250 years. If the definition of a hero is someone who was willing to risk their life to protect another, then our veterans are truly our nation's heroes. Let's all take a moment also to acknowledge the families of our service members and our veterans as they shoulder the weight of the family while we were deployed or off to battle. Their sacrifice is no less admirable. So gathering here today with the ceremonial pageantry of the day, we reaffirm our commitment to remain ever vigilant. We show that those who have stepped forward before us, we have not forgotten their sacrifice, and that we will stand ready to answer the call to arms if we must, to defend the future and the safety of our own children as they have done so for us. Thank you to all the veterans and their families who are here today. And thank you to those of you who may not have served, but have come here to honor our special day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rob, for your service. I would like to introduce the Acton Minutemen Company, who will present the history of the flag.
Thank you for having us today. The Acton Minutemen were reformed in 1963 as a ceremonial organization for the purpose of perpetuating the historic role that gunsmith Isaac Davis and his Minutemen Company played in the fight at the Old North Bridge on the morning of April 19th, 1775. Captain Davis led his men to Concord, and when they arrived, he responded to Major Buttrick's call for a group to lead the advance on the British soldiers guarding the bridge. He said, "I haven't a man who was afraid to go," and wheeled his 38-man company into the lead. Captain Davis gave his life at the bridge that fateful morning and became one of America's first heroes in the fight for independence, and the first commissioned officer to die for his country in the Revolutionary War. In addition, Acton gave two more of its souls that day, Abner Hosmer and James Hayward, and all three of them are buried right here where we are standing this morning. We honor their heroism by recounting their stories and reenacting their deeds to today's generations of Acton citizens. The present-day Acton Minuteman Company is composed of men, women, and children from all walks of life, reenacts each Patriots' Day, the march to Concord, and the ensuing battle there. Throughout the year, we participate in parades and local ceremonies, as well as battle reenactments and other special events at places like Fort Ticonderoga, Yorktown, and Mount Vernon. We're always looking for new members to share in these wonderful occasions with us. And we welcome and encourage anyone with an interest in what we do to reach out to us. We participate in these events so that generations to come will always remember the great deeds of the Minutemen of 1775. Not just from Acton, but from all of the surrounding towns and villages, and indeed all the original colonies. There is simply no substitute for seeing, hearing, and interacting with someone from the colonial period, rather than just reading about them or seeing them on a screen. That's why we're involved in reenacting and the flag presentation, which you are about to see, called the Early Flags of America. One of the special performances of our unit. It's a privilege to present it to you today. Right at the top.
We respectfully dedicate the presentation of the Early Flags of America to our foremost heroes and veterans of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and the wars of modern times. Men and women of Acton have served under many flags of our nation. Most notable are the Stars and Stripes from the 13th Star Flag to the present-day 50 Star Flag. It is fitting and proper on this occasion, however, that we recall the banners of our heritage. the flags that citizens of Acton were first involved with during the birth of our nation, the banners that inspired and were inspired by the desire to be free from tyranny, but yet reflected the desire to carry forth some of the heritage of the mother country. The first flag, the British Union Jack. As might be suspected, flags of English heritage were to play the principal role in the development of our early American banners. The Cross of St. George, a red cross on a white field, and the Cross of St. Andrew, a white cross diagonally on a blue field. They were combined in 1603 to form the famous Union flag or Union Jack that flew over the colonies for more than a century and a half, from Jamestown to Plymouth, Boston to Acton, until 1775. The present-day British Union Jack is similar with an additional diagonal red cross. The second flag, the red ensign or meteor flag, was commonly seen on merchant ships as well as the Great British man-of-war gunships. It was the flag of General Gage and Lord Howe as they occupied Boston and the countryside during the brewing storm of the 1760s and 70s. This flag became the basis of some of the more important flags of the colonial resistance, as we shall soon see. It inspired the Endicott flag, the Newbury flag, the New England flag, with the word liberty in bold letters, the Taunton flag in 1774.
As the New England colonies developed a flourishing maritime trade, a popular and widely used flag became this colonial ensign, a version of the red meteor. During this time, the colonists were busily devising all types of local flags. Another of these was the New England flag, substituting a blue field for the red field, causing it to resemble another British sea flag, the blue ensign. At the conclusion of a series of conflicts involving most European nations and their North American colonies in the first half of the 18th century, new problems arose between Great Britain and her colonies. With the conclusion of the 7 Years' War and the expulsion of the French from America in 1763, the great foreign menace was removed. Thoughts turned to new relationships, imperial and local problems with the mother country. Colonial assemblies were at loggerheads with royal governors. New crises in colonial politics occurred. The most notable was the Stamp Act troubles in the 1760s, subsequently the Boston Massacre of 1770, the Boston Tea Party in 73, and the closing of the port of Boston in 1774 set the stage for war.
The pine tree, long a symbol of New England, soon found its way to the banners of revolution. The continental flag, the red meteor with the pine tree substituted for the British Union in the canton, was the first flag in universal use in this area. As time wore on, troubles grew greater. Flames of independence were fanned by incidents in Boston town, and the folks of Acton, as in other towns, were well aware of the impending conflict. In November of 1774, a company of Minutemen were raised by volunteer enlistment. Isaac Davis, a gunsmith by trade, was elected captain, and the company by mutual agreement met twice each week for instruction and drill. Bumpkins and yokels, according to the lobster backs of General Gage in Boston, were seeking to act in a military manner. In the latter part of 1775, the Continental Congress recognized the need for a continental flag, appointed a committee of Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Harrison, and Thomas Lynch to journey to Boston and there confer with General Washington regarding a national flag. The idea of a new and opposing flag was not accepted unanimously. Many hoped for reconciliation with England, including Washington, and the conference of December 13, 1775 was a heated one. However, it was at last decided that a flag should be devised which would contain a bold element indicating the colonies were united and that union of military strength would be a prominent feature of the new banner. The result was the Grand Union flag, containing the crosses of St. George and St. Andrew on the blue field. with 13 stripes alternating red and white for the 13 colonies. It was officially hoisted January 2nd, 1776 by General Washington at Cambridge as the standard of the Continental Army, and hence is sometimes referred to as the Cambridge flag. It remained our national flag until June 4th, 1777. Citizen soldiers from Acton served under this flag at Dorchester Heights in the Siege of Boston and later in the Battle of White Plains, New York.
Did we skip some?
The Liberty Tree flag.
Okay.
What did I skip?
I don't know. Okay. We're on the Liberty Tree now, right?
Yep.
On March 17, 1776, Lord Howe and General Gage, under pressure of newly positioned cannon of the rebels, were forced to evacuate Boston. Before evacuation, however, General Gage chose to cut down one of the symbols of resistance, the Liberty Tree, the rallying point of the Sons of Liberty. When the Union of Cambridge flag was the flag of the nation, symbolic banners, while the Union of the Cambridge flag was the flag of the nation, symbolic banners of local resistance continued to be used. The Liberty Tree banner was born to perpetuate the symbol of continued resistance to the British rule in Massachusetts and the nation. The 13-star flag.
I think we're out of order.
We're a little out of order. I'm sorry, folks. That is the Liberty Tree flag. Are we good? In 1777, it is said that a committee consisting of General Washington, Robert Morris, and Colonel Ross called on Betsy Ross and asked if she could make a flag after the design they showed her. She agreed, but suggested that the stars are 5-pointed, the French rule, rather than 6-pointed, the English rule. Legend has it that General Washington described the flag in these words: "We take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, separating it by white stripes, thus showing that we have separated from her. And the white stripes shall go down to posterity, representing liberty." The Stars and Stripes was born in the midst of combat. It was a banner of a people in travail, giving birth to a new nation founded upon liberty and freedom. Its first use is claimed at Fort Stanwix in Fort Schuyler, New York, during a siege of English and Indians. This flag was cheered by patriots at Valley Forge in the winter of 77-78 at the Battle of Yorktown. The enlisted of Acton served under this banner thenceforth until a change occurred in 1795.
With the passage of time, new states were admitted to the Union, creating a new problem for our flag's design. It was intended that one star and one stripe would be added for each state. On May 1st, 1795, it was provided by Congress that the national flag should have 15 stars and 15 stripes, representing the addition to the Union of Vermont and Kentucky. This flag, in use from 1795 to 1818, became affectionately known as the Star-Spangled Banner. It derived its fame flying over Fort McHenry during the British bombardment the night of September 13th through 14th, 1814. Francis Scott Key, a Baltimore lawyer, was detained by the British while seeking the release of friends. After a night of anxiety, at dawn the flag still flew, and Key was inspired to write the immortal words of the Star-Spangled Banner. This banner also flew on the Constitution on the Tripoli expedition of 1805, and was the first flag carried across the continent on the Lewis and Clark expedition in 1804 through 1806. Soldiers of Acton served under this flag during the War of 1812. In 1812, the 50-star flag and our Minuteman flag. In 1818, by act of Congress, the number of stripes was fixed at 13, and after July 4th, 1818, only new stars would be added for each new state entering the Union. In 1818, our flag was 20 stars. By 1848, at the close of the Mexican War, our flag had 29 stars. 4 new stars were added between the Mexican and Civil Wars. In 1861, Acton citizens served under the 34-star flag, and later in 1864 under the 36-star flag. Acton's veterans of the Spanish-American War fought under 45 stars. The 48-star flag, notable for its length of use, 47 years from 1912 to 1959, was the banner of Acton's enlisted in 2 world wars. The 49-star flag was in use 1 year when it was superseded by 50 stars.
As we look back over 200 years of history, we are reminded that our forebears, under many different banners, have given the last full measure. The last full measure to preserve the right of free choice in governing themselves in the 4 essential human freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom to worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. They remind us also that freedom is not without its price and its obligations. As it was in their day, the Acton Minutemen of today march in memory of April 19, 1775, and those who have gone in the name of freedom since that time, with a new banner commemorating the heritage of the past, a pride and responsibility in the present, and a hope for the future, and we too are not afraid to go into that future. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Becky, who is the co-captain of the Acton Minutemen, Lori Gatley, who portrays a camp follower. Thank you to the flag holders, and thank you to the Minutemen with the muskets. If you would like to join me in the benediction, please bow your heads. O Lord, please remember the great sacrifices of our veterans. They risk their lives in honor of our country so that we may live in peace. Bless them for their selfless acts and bless their families as well. Uplift them whenever they feel lonely or overwhelmed. Offer them solace as only you can, and give them the grace to overcome any obstacles that they may face. Bring peace to our hearts and hearts of all veterans, and to the regions in which they fought. Amen. To all the veterans here today, I sincerely thank you for your service and sacrifices. Please take pride in saying that you have served in the greatest military in the world. To all who have attended today, thank you for choosing to honor veterans today and for showing your support to our heroes, past and present. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you so much.